Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss about another new concept as introduced under Companies Act 2013, that is promoters. So basically this term promoter was not defined under Companies Act 1956. It is a new concept that has been introduced under this act, that is Companies Act 2013. This term was used in the earlier act, but it was not specifically defined. So in this new act, it is defined under section 2, subsection 69, and it says that promoter is a person who has been named as such in a prospectus or is identified by the company in the annual return referred to in section 92. So as we know that section 92 of the new act, that is Companies Act 2013, it defines annual return. It discusses about annual return. So wherein annual return any person has been named as promoter, then they will become the promoter of the company, or any person who has been named as such in the prospectus of the company. So we know for public issue, for public issue of shares, prospectus need to be issued. So if in prospectus any name is mentioned as a promoter, then that person would be the promoter of the company. Or if under section 92 annual return is prepared, and in that annual return any person is classified as promoter of the company, then they will remain so. However, the situation was dicey in 2014 and 15, wherein for the first time annual return was prepared as per section 92 because of the new act. So, but after that, any person who has been named in that annual return or in MGT 7, which is the annual return form, then they will continue to remain the promoter. However, you can reclassify them if you want it at later years. But as per basic is concerned, then those person will remain the promoter of the company until the company decide to reclassify it. So next point, it says that second point, who shall be the promoter of the company, if who has the control over the affairs of the company directly or indirectly, whether as a shareholder, director, or otherwise. Now it's a very broad term, it's a very broad explanation, wherein it says that if a person is having a control of the affairs of the company, which is either directly or indirectly. Now first of all we have to see what the control means. So, control, I think we have already discussed in an earlier definitions also in associate company, that what does control term means. So basically control is defined in section 2 subsection 27 of the act, which says that control shall include the right to appoint majority of directors. So it says that if a person is having right to appoint majority of directors, which simply means that a holding company is having control over the subsidiary company. So that holding company would become the promoter of the subsidiary company. In the first line itself, this explanation could be drawn out. So firstly, it says if a person, and I'm talking about person to include company as well. It doesn't only include individual. So if a person is having control, if a person is having right to appoint the majority of directors in any company, then that person would automatically be in control of that company. If it is in control over the affairs of the company, then it shall become the promoter of the company. So secondly, it says that if there is a right to control the management or policy decisions. Now a person can control the management or policy decision by having shareholding. If a person is having, what I feel is, if a person is having more than 25% of shares in any company, then that person would be having enough right to control the management or policy decision, because if any business is to be passed by a special resolution, then it cannot be passed if that person holding more than 25% of shares give its assent. So in that case, it simply means in that case he would be having control over the affairs of the company. But that control over the affair could not be only judged on the basis of shareholding. It can also be because of any agreement, It says that if it is a shareholding agreement or something like that, by virtue of which if a person is having the control over the policy decisions, then that person would also be conferred to as having control over the company, and thereby becoming the promoter of the company. So let's see the complete definition of control. First point, we have discussed that control shall include the right to appoint majority of directors. If we are having control over the management of policy decisions exercisable by the person or persons acting individually or in concert, directly or indirectly, including by virtue of their shareholding or management rights or shareholders agreement or voting rights or in any other manner. So here it says that either it could be by shareholding, or it could also be by any agreement, like joint venture agreement could also be the source of making any person having the control over the affairs of the company. So now, what does affairs of the company here literally means? It could also be said that day-to-day affairs of the companies, but since there is no such judicial decision about that, so we would see any this control over the affairs means any affair of the company that is related to policy decisions only, and not including day-to-day affairs. Another thing which we can see in the definition, if we move if we see in the B point of the definition of promoter, it says that the control over the affairs of the company could be directly or indirectly, and it is not only necessary that it is to be as a shareholder, it could be as a director or otherwise. So now, by virtue of any shareholding agreement, if suppose by virtue of any shareholding agreement, any restricted right is given to any person, but he doesn't have any control over the management or the policy decision, then in that case he would not become the promoter of the company. Whereas on the other hand, if any person is having the right to appoint director over the board of any company, because of this agreement, that is shareholding agreement or any joint venture agreement, that if he is eligible to appoint any director of the board, then he would become the promoter of that company, because any director, obviously assent or dissent of any director influence the decision that a board takes. So in that case, promoter definition, that B point, is very wide in itself, and it is an inclusive definition. The definition of control is an inclusive definition. So as per different point of views, many a person could be included in it, and there could be another interpretation to it which could restrict the definition or which could widen it. So that depends on the sense of interpretation of person to person. So I'm taking the liberal interpretation and then explaining. So let's move forward. C point. It says that again, it's another white point. It says that in accordance with whose advice, directions, or instructions the board of directors of the company is accustomed to act. Now here it says that any person on whose advice or direction the board of directors either is accustomed to act, or that person, it could be managing director, whole time director, or any other person, if it is having such influence over the decision of the board, then it would be said that those person is having influence over the board, and the board is accustomed to act on their direction. So in that case, those person, it could be managing director, whole time director, or any other person, any other director, if that then that those persons would become the promoters of the company. So it's a very loose ended term. Many could there could be way many interpretation of this term, that is accustomed to act, and it is also difficult to prove whether a person is accustomed to act over the advice of another person or not. Until and unless there is a written agreement, it is really difficult to prove it. It would be based on then documentary evidence only. So, however, if a person is acting on the advice of any professional person and who is acting in a professional capacity, then that professional person would not become the promoter of the company, obviously. So we could see that this was very exhaustive in its nature, the term promoter, and it's having a real wider scope. But the thing is that it has been firstly defined, specifically defined in the act. So we need to know this because it would be helpful for identifying the promoters when we file the annual return of the company. Oh, it is really very important because that's the mandatory fields over there. So we need to identify the promoter, and for that we need to actually understand what all persons are included in the promoter of the company. So that's all for now. I hope you have liked this video, and if yes, then please like and subscribe. My YouTube channel is PH Webcan Videos, and do not forget to share and comment on this video. Your comments are valuable, so please do comment. Thank you.